And commissioners, we are live.
I call this meeting of the Riley County Commission on January 22nd to order. Please, everybody join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Congratulations to the Chiefs and both K-State basketball teams, as we were discussing here just briefly. So great way to start the week off, obviously.
Was.
So we'll start off with some public comments this morning. We've got something going on here, so we'll start with that first.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Shannon Sterling, and I am the REACH Committee Chair. Today, I am here to present the Employee of the Month for the February of 2024. This person was nominated by their peer because he goes above and beyond for the citizens of Riley County. He is a strong leader, willing to help others in any way he can. He will take extra responsibilities for others, including sacrificing family time to assist on calls even when he has not been on call chief. He strives to continue to learn more in order to be a helpful resource to the department and his fellow firefighters. He is an excellent leader during the calls and makes sure to show his appreciation for everyone he works with. I believe Doug Russell should be recognized as Employee of the Month due to his sacrifice and dedication to the department and the community of Riley County. Doug Russell.
Didn't come down to this. Thank you.
Good beach.
You can text me if you like that.
I just wanted to thanks to everybody. Appreciate it. It's like I said, we'll come down here for us. So appreciate it.
Come on in.
Congratulations, Doug.
What we were gonna talk about, so you're. Yeah.
It's funny, sometimes they like make you think you're in trouble. Commissioners are not. Kevin, would you push that chair a little bit more? I know the cord gets in the way. Thank you. All right, one more time. 1, 2, 3, big smiles. Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Keep up the really good work.
Yeah, appreciate you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations, Doug. Thank you.
Do we have an introduction? I'm taking it. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Phillips, Budget and Finance Officer. I have Ashley Easterday here. Today is her first day. She's our new payroll clerk, so I just thought I'd bring her over to introduce her to all of you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Okay. Do we have any other public comments this morning? No? Oh, okay. Everybody's moving at once.
We're on payroll.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll be ready for that on Thursday then. Okay. Okay, we'll see no other public comments and not see anybody up on Zoom. We'll go ahead then and close that section off and we'll move on to commission comments and Commissioner McKenna.
Okay, well, Friday, attended the Flint Hills Leadership Retreat that the Chamber puts on. It was an all-day event that I forget what that now or discussion, but I'll skip to a couple of highlights. The keynote was by a guy talking about generations and dealing across them. That was the best talk I've heard about this. I've heard some other speakers, and this guy really, he had a great presentation, learned a lot. He had a lot of good points. That was great. The other highlight was General Meyer, Commanding General Fort Riley. I hadn't heard him speak before, but he's really a dynamic speaker. He did a great job. Thursday evening, we went to the Historical Society's reception at Wolf House. They have a new display on Victorian weddings. Oh, yeah. Like I said, Historical Society. And we got to meet a few of the other people there. It was nice. Saturday was a basketball day. Both teams had large, enthusiastic crowds. And both of them are on top of the conference, but they both have a tough week.
Oh,
Very tough week. Both of them have a tough week this week to see, see the whole conference. It's tough. It's in the men's,
Give it a nine.
men's especially. That's all I've got.
Commissioner Pokey.
Okay. Well, Friday took my car to be repaired finally. I went to the regional leaders retreat held at the Hilton Garden Inn. It was a full day of presentations. And Commissioner McKinley highlighted some of them. We had a good lunch, keynote speaker, community updates. We had a presentation on K-State 105. Also health and wellness in the Flint Hills and Fort Riley, General Myers. Updates on community issues of the Child Care Accelerator Facility and housing. And then one on the book, the author of the book, When Everyone Leads, which is a book on leadership in the workplace that we had reviewed at the county, our county day in October. Saturday evening, I attended the Raleigh County Annual Awards Banquet at Potter Hall, which was really well attended. A lot of people and some good awards, so it was a good event. That's all I had.
Okay. Well, for me, I got rolling back to Thursday afternoon. I listened in on the Council of Foreign Relations State and Local Officials webinar. Since the month's webinar was titled The Gray Wave. I don't know if that was a great title for this, but it was responding to an aging population. So I'll just let you call it as it is. Jess Maurer, Executive Director of the Maine Council on Aging, discussed demographic trends in her state and her work of her organization, followed up by Jennifer Scubia, a Global Fellow at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. She discussed demographic trends as well and implications of an aging population at home and abroad. Pretty good question and answer session then followed. I too on Friday attended the Flint Hills Leadership Retreat at the Hilton Garden Inn. I think everybody summed it up pretty well. Clint Runge, who, they put the best at the beginning there, I guess, to get everybody hooked early. I thought the speaker was very dynamic, and if anything, he hit the generational trends of my generation to the T. There was nothing I could argue on that, even though that was part of the discussion of us liking to argue. But I thought he did an amazing job. He'd be a good guy to bring back at some point in time to discuss some things. Some of the community updates, all the local chambers, Flint Hills Regional Council, the airport was part of that discussion. Lunch presentation 105 as mentioned. Hospital panel had some pretty good information. I thought General Meyer gave a really good discussion. I think his thoughts on our biggest national security threat being that 30% of the population can't serve at this point in time was
7%.
well,
Because of running it
technically,
right.
only 30%.
Yeah,
That's
basic skill.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's eye-opening. That's a real red flag. I've heard him speak several times, so I wasn't really surprised by bits and pieces of that, but and laying out that part of it was very eye-opening. Getting an update on the Child Care Accelerator, some housing issues, some other initiatives that are being worked on, I thought was pretty good. Ed O'Malley gave a great presentation. I wasn't here for that presentation in October when he gave it to the county, so it was good to catch up on that. Had group facilitated conversations that we were able to have at each one of the tables. I think kind of broke that hour and a half up pretty nicely as well. And one of the nice things, I appreciated the fact that this is a day event instead of a day and a half event now. We should be able to work all that stuff into one
Well,
day.
and got a lot better attendance.
I
after that, too.
agreed. I still like the fact that we're having this in Manhattan and not someplace else. The regular board retreat is in Kansas City. And we didn't spend like 2 hours trying to talk about all the challenges and issues and problems that we have, because most of them are being worked on in some capacity. And we're just coming back and updating on what those progresses are instead of just trying to beat a dead horse with the stick there. So I would say probably overall, this is probably one of the better ones I've actually attended. Saturday morning, attended the monthly coffee talk hosted by the Riley County Republicans at Dobro on the west side of town. Gave everybody an update on kind of what we're working on here at Riley County early in the year. Heard some talk about what's going to be discussed at the upcoming state convention in Kansas City this upcoming weekend. as well as several other events coming up, as well as the 2024 election cycle. They're trying to do their part in recruiting some election help, volunteers and election workers. Don't know what'll come of that, but I guess I can keep you posted. Saturday evening, I too attended the Riley County Fire District Annual Banquet and Award Ceremony. Agreed, it was very well attended. Firefighters and families. There was a lot of them there. A lot of community and regional sponsors for the event, which I thought was great too. Big thanks to State Fire Marshal Mark Ingram, or Eggholm, I may not be saying that right, who attended and talked briefly. Brian Pete from RCPD and his family had also joined us at the event. And you missed the best part right after you left. They got a call for a fire.
Oh,
Down at
really?
Hunter's Island.
Everybody takes off, right?
A good portion of the room had to get up and leave. So
Okay.
I think that the irony of that is it really shows you in real time what they actually have to go through, and you can't even enjoy a banquet for themselves without having to jump onto a fire. And I think it was a structure fire, and I think it was a total loss down there if I had heard right.
Where
So
was that?
down in Hunter's Island.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
hear specifically where. It wasn't the transfer station. That was my first question.
That was my first.
Yeah, it was my first question. They said it was not the transfer station, so we were good there. But it makes me appreciate their work and efforts even more when something like that happens. And they mentioned about all K-State basketball. Yeah, they've got, the men in particular have a very tough week, but the women have to go on the road against Baylor, so it's not easy, particularly without Lee. So see how it goes and keep our fingers crossed. Chiefs won a pretty good game yesterday. I didn't think they'd actually go to Buffalo and win, to be honest with you.
Me neither.
Championship teams figure out a way to win when they need to win. So I guess it is what it is. It'll be an interesting game in Baltimore on Sunday. So that's about all I've got this morning. So we move on to business.
First item I have, commissioners need a motion to approve the $5,000 appropriation to WTC, and then also Clancy has a draft of a support letter for you to review and approve as well.
That 5,000 only gets paid if they get the grant, correct?
It's a commitment.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, because it's a match.
It's just part of the
Mhm.
action, isn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, they said definitely don't cut us a check. We'll let you know
Oh, okay.
when.
That's the way I understood it, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay, okay, well, I would make a motion to approve the 5,000 appropriation to WTC for the grant. And also the support letter that will go along with that.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded for supporting grants appropriation of $5,000 to WTC and a support letter for the same adopt grant program. All those in favor?
Aye.
All three signed, please.
You know about the original list to sign.
That's what you just signed.
Oh, it's in there. Oh, okay.
That's that. Yep, that's
Okay.
that. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Lots of paper.
I didn't look at what I was signing.
Well, no, we know that.
Wait a minute.
See a raise in our future. See a raise in our future.
I guess I'm gonna have to look more carefully in the future.
Are you radar? Oh, wow, they just here signing this.
No, that's not gonna happen.
That was a good show. That was my go-to show in between college classes.
Oh.
And some of these things take a lot of signatures. There.
Okay, next commissioners need a motion on tax roll corrections.
I move to approve the tax roll corrections presented.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to sign the tax roll corrections as written. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair, please sign. Any changes to the minutes, commissioners?
It's.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as written from January 18th, 2024.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as written from the January 18th meeting of the Riley County Commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any items for next week's press conference, commissioners? Okay. Tentative agendas look okay. Okay, next commissioners, you have Lori Harrison, 9 o'clock.
About thin meetings, I'm sure they won't be.
Myself, probably home.
Oh, don't you hate that? I know. I do that too.
I get it, I thought I had everything all packed up, ready to go and get down here. Oh, no.
I did something like that on Sunday. I come into town and forgot my wallet. Called my wife, my wallet on the counter. Worked out good though. Ran into my son. I got to use his credit card.
That's good.
Even better.
That's even better.
Hey,
Sure that was an accident.
Do that more often.
Well, it's okay to be without a phone, but when we have a cycle, like. catch up on some calls.
Yeah, no, you get so used to them and I rely on it for my
Yeah.
calendar and everything anymore, you know, and so, yeah.
Chiefs look like we're getting us together finally. Play
Yeah.
better than they had been.
Lost.
Defense disappointed me though. Man, the defense disappointed
Well,
me
at
for
the end
three
of the game-
quarters. For 3 quarters, you know, I was like, where's our great defense?
Well, it's funny that with after the last time the Buffalo scored, the commentator, announcers were talking about, oh, you know, Kansas City's only allowed this many points in the games this year, and now look, they've already got, you know, that was the last points they scored, and they did hold them down to those
Mhm.
numbers.
Yeah, that field goal being missed, real. So
I could not believe he missed that
I
thing.
can't either.
And well, I can't believe we got fumbled and out of the end zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bad break there.
We'll just say that's the second one he's done.
He,
Oh, really?
Fumbled, yeah.
Well, he's, some of the losses, he dropped a few passes a couple times that people would get down and stay with, you know. I'm guessing he's one of the won't be back. So I don't know what his contract was, but. Of course, we all expect him to be perfect.
Yeah, that's
Two or
true.
three guys smashing you, and you dropped the ball, there's just 2 or 3 guys smashing into you.
Look at that 300-pound guy
Yeah.
landed on you.
That one guy, I was like, one of their defense, he was so big, he was like a like a giant. I
On
was
the
watching-
Bills?
Yeah, yeah.
That one guy
That
was
one guy,
huge.
he's just like,
He was huge.
we're like that one.
He
Whoa.
had to
I
be
was
at
like,
360, 370. He was big.
how could you face that?
I noticed him jogging off the field a couple times, like, holy moly, he's as big as a house.
He was.
That's what my wife said. It was one of the, I think it was our quarterback, it might have been their quarterback. He said, where was he throwing? I said, well, he was more concerned with that 300-pound guy about to hit him. It was the problem on that one.
Also looked like Jason Kelsey was having quite the
I
time.
thought that was fun. I thought that was neat.
He was able to upstage sweat.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
did.
it's cool.
Yeah.
Got a picture like later of his wife who was also there, was
Oh,
not really liking the situation very well. We're thinking conversation.
Used to him by now.
Those two brothers are pretty fun. But
Yeah.
Imagine that household growing up.
oh, yeah. Well, the mother's got to be a pretty good sport. I never say anything about their dad. Are they divorced?
No, I don't think so.
Kelsey-
I read something, I was looking at that, yeah, the company says dad's still around it. He is, just,
It's kind of quiet.
just doesn't get the headlines.
Yeah, that one guy was a tank. Which player was it they took off, went off the field with a brain injury? Was that Buffalo Bills or?
Yeah,
Neck
those
injury or
guys that, they said something about head injury, but then he must have been okay.
Yeah, they sure hit hard out there.
Oh, good.
They're not gonna have an easy time getting people to do this.
Good.
Log
I'm good.
for the park.
Yeah.
Not an early morning guy?
I am, but I haven't been late enough to serve you.
I haven't even tried to get that
I
parking.
guess I need to get out the car.
We just got a new one.
Oh, we got a new one?
Fairly
It's got it's like a 3-page thing of instructions on how to do it. And go in there.
Well, my thing is that code is so long to be.
Yeah.
After if we gotta put that code in, I'm like, how many times is it gonna take me to get it right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
They should give us like a
Is this
2-digit
one-
code to type
This
in.
one's not right.
No, we got a new one, but
Got
it's
new
got, it's got a whole string of how you do
What's
it.
what's the new code?
The
No,
code's the
same
same,
code,
but it's
But it's
a,
just got a big, long description. It's got, I haven't looked, at it. Just,
You have to have that app, right? To get into it, or do you?
oh, I don't know.
I don't have the app.
I'm not really for sure at this point.
I just assume we pulled up and punch in a code on a keypad.
Nope.
So if not, I'll be parking on the street and walking in, I guess. I don't know.
Park over to the alumni center and walk over.
They're gonna find that that's gonna be too troublesome for about 80% of the population at this meeting, I think.
Yeah, how much is it?
It's probably $2 or something. It's really
Yeah.
not that much, but still.
Kind of easier to just pay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking at this point.
since this is,
I tried to go through the app yesterday and do all of it.
Oh, but
I
also,
couldn't
do they-
come up with anything.
Do they have some reserved places? Because you can't find a place. There's
No,
not
I
empty-
know.
There's not empty spots.
At noon on a Monday?
Yeah. Yes, enter your email and vehicle details complete.
shoot, I don't have my phone. I'll have to go home.
You gotta enter, you gotta enter your license plate and yeah, it's what?
You have to get a whole thing. You have to go online.
I'm just
to do
gonna
all
pay
this.
it. It's just.
Yeah, I forgot my phone at home, so I can't even. We don't have enough time for me to go home and. Yeah, so I'll just pay it. Anyway, going to that pipeline.
Oh, you have to park, update the arrive and leave date and time. So I was looking at, that you can do it ahead of time.
No, yeah, on the app, you just have to do it in real time. That part's easy, but trying to get it set up doesn't.
No, so there's something we have to set up before we go there? Great.
Are you gonna have
Good thing it's nice weather. I think I'll be parking at the Alumni Center.
Well, during the school day, that's not a guarantee you're gonna find parking there either.
That is for sure. How hard, would it be to send everyone a scannable document? Sure, they got a scan feature on that parking access thing where you just hold it out there and scan it and drive in.
Yeah,
Figure out something.
hold on to be up here.
Like this, like you need to get on, take you on your phone and start.
I've got the app on my phone occasionally. Even when I go down to Aggieville, I don't really use the app because I'm not there for usually more than 2 hours. So you don't send her 2 hours, you don't have to pay anything, so.
But it's not that K-State one, that's no. The 2 hours isn't free.
No, not a case they.
Just go and take it. Take it.
Morning.
Morning, how you doing, Lori?
Okay.
Hey, Lori.
Ready?
Yes.
All right. Well, good morning. I'm here to talk about the HMEP grant, the Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant. We are looking to be the driving force behind a regional project for the 24 fiscal year. And so what we did in 2012, we took the HMEP grant and we conducted a commodity flow study. So we hired a contractor to tell us what hazardous materials are going through our region, whether it's by land, by air, by sea, right? So that's what they do. They look at all of it. And so in 2012, that worked for us. And then we became part of a different hazard mitigation region. KDM divided the state out into different regions. And so now our region does not line up with the 2012 study that we did. And of course, it's outdated anyway. It's, 11 years old, 12 years old. And so by hiring a contractor to do the new commodity flow study, we'll be up to date with the things that are going through our region, our updated region to now include Chase County and Lyon County, where they weren't included in our project before. And so there's a little bit of liability, but I don't think there'll be anything that we have to worry about because I have agreements from each emergency manager in every county, 7 counties that will be doing this project, for their buy-in, because it is a 20% match. And so 20% of the project, and depending on where our contractor comes in, we probably will be looking at about $40,000 as a 20% match. And by looking at the population of the region, we as Riley County, of course, the biggest county in the region, will take on the 38% of that 20% match. And then the rest of it divided out in a formula between the other 6 counties. And so they've all signed on and agreed to that figure. So that figure could go down depending on the contract that we end up with. But this is definitely ballpark to get us started and get the grant application in before the deadline of February 6th. So I guess I'm open for questions. It seems, I don't know, I think it's pretty straightforward with 20% match and what it is that we're trying to accomplish. But I worked on this before, and sometimes new eyes have different questions, and I don't foresee those. But if you have questions, I would be glad to answer those for you.
I thought in one part, reading too, it said something about part of it can be your involvement in it or something that the labor of working on it can be part of the match.
Exactly. That's what we did in 2012, and that's what we intend to do in 24.
Okay.
Is the 20% match is known as an in-kind match. And so salaries and benefits from people working on the project, so those county emergency managers, other folks that we may have involved in the project, sitting out looking at hazard materials placards on the highway, doing research, whatever, would go towards that 20%. So there's no money from the counties.
This is your time.
Yeah.
Or somebody else's.
Yeah, it'll be our time. So then that limits us because, some counties are EMPG, we're EMPG county, so we have grant money already spoken for. So those are things we have to make sure that we track in that whole process, but that's no big deal. Yeah, you can't use a grant to match a grant, yeah. So, but no, I don't think there'll be any problem because these other counties are just pretty minimal on their 20% match. And so we're very confident in doing the financial tracking of this and making sure that we abide by all of the rules.
When did the state change the mitigation regions?
Oh,
Hasn't been recent.
Because our plan is 5 years and it's due in 25, so they may have done it in 2020-ish.
Okay.
And this is just to find out what there is going through the area and then, but also what to do about each of those things.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so planning, so we take the information that they receive, that they research, they analyze it, they give the information to us so that we can plan for anything, so we know, what's coming through and
So it's a tanker.
and if we need, and if we need to do any training with our first responders, or make any special plans for a specific chemical, then we can certainly take that under control.
Who actually knows, or who do they report to if they're gonna bring hazardous materials through the state? Where does that go through?
As in like a transport company?
Yeah, like if a transport company is carrying hazardous materials, the way stations really aren't open much anymore. So how does the state find out that that's going through the region?
Depends on who it is. They'd probably have to file something with KDHE.
And I would suppose what chemical it was too,
Okay.
would make a difference on any reporting.
If it's something in and out of Fort Riley, it'd probably have to be through federal means at that point in time.
Yeah, I really
You'd
don't.
have to track it.
I was just wondering how we found out about that.
A lot of this will be sitting on the side of the road. And then as a placarded vehicle goes by, then you know the placard and
Oh,
then they look at the transportation route. So how busy is Highway 24 with chemicals? How busy is 77 with chemicals? 56 would be in our new region. So, how busy is that? So they would just be sitting on the side of the road, gathering that information along with, just asking like the railroad, what they have and different things. So, yeah. So if you want to sit on the side of the road.
well, there's gotta be somebody that sits on the side of the road.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of interesting to go out there because we didn't get to do that last time around and we were kind of unhappy with our last contractor. And so this time around, we're making sure that we are more involved in the process, to get that end product that we want.
Well, I suppose people can sneak through at nighttime in the middle of the night so that we wouldn't find out about.
Yeah, those placards, they tell you what's in it. I mean, I've seen there's different.
It's a 3
Yeah, it tells you the hazards if it's oxidizer and if it's health
explosive,
risk,
fire,
explosive.
yeah. Same thing you get in that MSDA book, I know for like household chemicals and stuff. Well, that's, right. It's like we range it, is it 1 to 3? Or 1 to 5?
I think it's 4.
4, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of that ocean class I took.
Yeah.
That's all reason why I remember that.
And it's not just on vehicles, right? It's on buildings.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay. I'd move to approve the fiscal year 2024 HMEP grant application for hazardous material commodity flow study for the hazardous mitigation region 1.
I would second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the fiscal year 2024 HMEP grant application for a hazardous material commodity flow study for the hazardous mitigation region. All in favor? Aye. Chair, please sign.
Thank you, Lori.
Very much.
Commissioner, you have Lori Philpkamp at 9:15. Thank you. Commissioner Singh, I asked Commissioner Ford to allow me to speak at the press conference regarding the new no labels party and then the presidential preference primary. So one additional item in the press conference.
Well, that's not a statewide.
Yeah.
What's not a statewide?
No labels.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is.
It's on the ballot. There's a couple other states too.
It's going on voter registry. It's statewide Kansas.
Correct,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not national wide. Yeah. Yeah, geez, political parties that are in California, I don't remember they had. Didn't go very far, but we'll see.
So we're, maybe he has to hold our job and all that. And so the vote to match would be about 30. And so, divided up by 7 counties by population is how we're gonna do the method. It's Riley, Gary, Harvey, Wolfie, Chase, Laura, right, yeah.
I can see that.
Right, we're hoping that's where the contractor comes in. Yeah. Is about that amount of money. And then we, the R match too, is that was the whole project. Listen. But it's kind of working backwards, but that, yeah. Sure thing, yeah.
We can approve it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it can get confusing when we start talking about in-kind matches and stuff, but mostly we just use salaries, and so people will be all the time rather than. Yeah, we need to decide that hour or whatever. All right, sure thing.
His presentation was totally different. You can see he came to the job, so it was different. Yeah, until 5.
Well, like I said, we were supposed to be at Wolcott by 5:30, so and cut out early. So
I didn't intend it to. Morning, Lori.
Good morning.
Amanda.
Hey, Ron, how are you?
Good. How are you?
If it looks like I have a shiner, it's because I do.
I'm just thinking how bad the other person.
Yeah.
Okay, I had to have eyelid surgery on Friday, and the good news is that my eyelid is a lot better. It was starting to cover up my pupil,
Mhm.
and boy, it's great, except it looks really bad. But of all the timing, my husband had thumb surgery, so he's got this big old club on his right hand.
Good timing.
Get our story straight.
Police officer stop you and interview you too and make sure you're okay.
I told him that was great timing. He tore all the ligaments in his thumb and.
Oh.
And it was wondering on that, so. So we're done. I told him that's enough surgeries for this year. I'm done.
Okay, Lori?
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Yes.
How about the Chiefs?
Yeah, no kidding.
Awesome game last night. All right, things at Big Lakes, update on new admissions. In 2023, we admitted a total of 16 individuals into day services, 8 in the residential services, and 12 in the case management. And as you know, we've had a waiting list and haven't done admissions for almost 6 years. So we're very excited that we're starting to do that again. And I know we have a number of people in the pipeline, so we're starting to kind of chip away at our internal waiting list. However, there continues to be a statewide waiting list for funding. As I have discussed, I think every meeting I've ever come to. The latest numbers as of January 9th is there are 5,187 individuals waiting in Kansas for IDD services. There's 129 that are waiting in Riley, Gary, Potawatomi, and Clay counties. That has not changed since the last time I was here. The average wait time, however, is now 10 years, 10 months. It's 11 years. The good news with our legislative agenda last week, our state association Interhab, we had our January meeting, and that evening we met with legislators who would come to our reception, and actually 3 of our very legislators came, so I was able to visit with them about our agenda as far as our platform, I guess, for this year. And one of those things is waiting lists. We are asking that they stop the bleeding. In order for us to wrap our arms around that 5,000 number, we got to get started somewhere. And what we would like to see is them fund growth so that it doesn't continue to grow. And in the meantime, the legislature did give KDADs the mandate to write this community support waiver, and we're in the process of doing that, but it's going to take some time in order to get that written and approved by Medicaid at the federal level. They're thinking 2026 is when that will happen, but in the meantime, we really like them to stop the bleeding. And the committee that's been working on this at the legislative level, it seems to be very committed to funding this new waiver. What's different with this waiver versus the one that we're on now, the one that we have now that Big Lakes operates on is more a comprehensive waiver. It's for the day and residential. It's kind of wrap around 24/7 services. Not everybody on that waiting list needs 24-hour service. So this waiver is being written for that purpose. And so the cost will be less, and we might be able to address the needs of a good number of people that are on that waiting list. So while not those individuals who do need the wraparound services will continue to be eligible, but at least it be some sort of movement towards reducing the waiting list, which of course has been around for 22 years. So long time. Another legislative agenda is to get a rate increase. Our last rate increase was in 2022, and I shared with you at that time that we used the entirety of that rate increase to go towards wages to try and recruit staff. We increased our starting wage from $12.50 to $16 an hour. And while that was great, I think you all would agree that inflation has taken a big bite out of its effectiveness. So we're asking for another rate increase, not only just for wages, but also for operational costs. Because again, I didn't put any of that toward operational costs, and we've got double-digit increases in insurance, utilities, supplies. I mean, you know them. I know you all deal with that as well at the county level, so I know you know what I'm talking about. Also, the third initiative we're working on is Kansas is an employment first state. And what that means is we want people with disabilities to be employed if at all possible. But unfortunately, the money has not been where the mouth is. There currently are supported employment rate, what we get for paying our job coaches to coach individuals in the community in jobs right now is $17.85 an hour. If we're starting at 16, that doesn't even pay for the individuals that we're employing. And in some cases, we're placing people in jobs that are making more than what the job coaches are. So the governor actually did put a rate increase for supported employment up to $28 an hour. That's a great starting point. for us to work from. It's always easier to push something that's in the budget than to put something new into the budget. So pretty excited about that. Our annual licensure review is tomorrow. It was rescheduled from last week when we had, all the sub-zero temperatures and so forth. And our annual giving campaign, is complete. All the funds that we raised has gone towards our Raise the Roof project. Our goal was 60,000. We raised over 71. So very pleased with that. We still do have tax credits available throughout this year. So if somebody wants to make a contribution of $250 or more, they can qualify for a tax credit from the state of Kansas. So, and we are currently at 38% of our $2 million goal, which we're hoping to have all that raised by the end of this year. So that's our goal. We did get our solar panels installed in November. One of the really cool things, of course, everything has an app.
Even parking garages.
You were just talking about that earlier.
It's kind of neat because I can go on at any time and see what the effectiveness of our solar panels are. Of course, it's not very effective today.
I was gonna say, we
That's
had
one
sun for a while, yeah.
But we turned them on right the day before Thanksgiving. And that first 3 weeks, we saved $1,000 in utilities because it was really sunny during that period of time. But yeah, right now we're sitting at $1,600 that we've saved in electricity. And so yeah, it's really kind of
Still a chunk of money, $1,600.
yeah, and we're on average, we're supposed to save about 24,000 a year,
Like 2 months.
Yeah, it's-
$800 a month
which
so
is
far.
yeah, but again, the summer months is when
Yeah.
it really kicks in. So that's kind of cool. So any questions for me today?
How is construction over there in your area been impacting? Yeah.
You had to bring up a bad subject, didn't you?
Have a good day.
My bad, my bad.
No, it's fine. It's just inconvenient. You know, that corner casement and haze. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of our residential homes in the area, and so we're taking a long way home and so forth. Hopefully that will be finished this spring. I just
Saying they used it March, so. Okay.
What annoys
I live
me-
over in the Northview area too, so.
So you
feeling
get
the
it,
pain.
yeah, you get it. I live just on the, off, not too far from Deep Creek Road, and I tell you what, ever since they tore everything up, and then since then, the
Oh,
weather
yeah.
has been
Yeah.
awful, and the potholes,
Yeah, they're bad.
oh, they're deep.
You can lose a tire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have to be really
Axle.
kind of careful when you're going through there, because yeah, they're very deep.
They're bad.
So, yeah, that's the luck that they get, you know, and I'm sure the snowplow folks love, you know, dodging, cones. So, anything else?
No.
And maybe, you said there's 5,000 on the waiting list statewide. How many are receiving services statewide? Maybe-
How many, the last time I looked, it was about 9,000.
Holy
So
moly.
it's almost half of it. That's why I was wondering what percentage.
Yeah, well, when you have a
That's-
waiting list going for 22 years
well, that's what-
and the
that's-
length of time continues to go, that's why they got to
You gotta
Run
fix
the
that.
growth.
Yeah.
they really need to do that if we're gonna get our arms around it. Cause it's a lot to take on, and if you're talking with, I don't know, with 5,000 people, if you're talking about the comprehensive waiver, you're talking, well over 100 million. That would have to be come up with to serve that, so, that's unrealistic, I think, but I think we gotta take little chunks out of it as we go, and at least we can stop the growth. That would help a great deal for us to get a plan in place, maybe really 5 or 7 years to do that, so. It's heartbreaking when you have families that come in, and you'll have folks that want to tour, they have a child that's graduating from high school and they want to get services, and so many times they don't realize that there is that huge waiting list. As I often say, they graduate to their parents' couch. And they get all the knowledge and education that they got in special ed, and by the time 10 years later, we're starting over. They're literally starting over.
They're aging out of certain services that they could have already had in the
Sure.
process.
Mhm.
And the importance of work.
Mhm.
You know, we really want to get people employed, especially in the community if we can. But if they stay at home for 10 years and play video games, the desire to work is an uphill battle in some cases. So it's really sad.
Well, there's bits and parts of the younger generation that are doing that already too, so.
Yeah, they're not too
You're not the
bad.
only
Yeah.
ones fighting that.
Everybody's got, needs.
So,
I was curious, what did it cost you to put the solar panels in?
The total project was 375,000, and we're gonna get a tax credit back from the federal government. In fact, I've filed the preliminary work. We have to get this number from the Department of Energy, and then we file a form along with our 990 in May that we would get reimbursed probably about 75,000 in tax credits, and then we have to make up the difference with our fundraising.
Okay, and that was just for the solar panels?
And then, of course, the first phase was the roof replacement,
Mm-hmm,
where I replaced all the buckets.
yeah. I was just kind of wondering when it would
Yeah,
pay itself
yeah,
off, you know?
And the cost estimates, when we got it, the estimate is that the savings will pay it off within 10 years.
Within 10 years? Okay.
And the solar panels and the equipment that's attached to them are warranted for 20. So we should see some good efficiencies.
Okay.
And that, not to mention, I doubt utility costs are going to go down. Just a feeling.
Okay, okay. Interesting.
Not the truth.
No kidding. Okay,
Thank you, Lori.
great questions. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Hopefully without the Shriner. Yeah.
Next, Commissioner, we have press conference. 9:30.
Have a good day.
You too.
Yeah, it's about what we want. It's gotta be the other side on Anderson out past Seth Childs. And what's really bad is Reed, each side of Reed, where they attached, they patched the joints, they've all heaved up. It's
Yeah.
like speed bumps
Yeah,
going through there. It's got.
I haven't been over there on Reef.
It's always been rough. It's always been rough for a while, but this freeze has
Yeah.
heaved those joint replacements. So, every 15 or 20 feet, there's a bump going through there now.
it's kind of like the Anderson going on the west side of Dillon's on Anderson. It's like that. Reef part over there is really bad. And then I go up and grab the Fort Riley Boulevard and those potholes, I'm dodging it back and forth. They're
Yeah, and I didn't
really
know.
bad.
I guess I hadn't paid attention. I didn't realize that all the stuff on 177 was on the other side of the bridge. I knew they said they were going to be doing that. I didn't know that it started yet. No one else did last week. Oh,
You have to go all the way
that's
around
a
again.
mess.
Well, Anderson has been bad going to town for a long time and they haven't done anything, even in the good weather, they haven't patched it. I've asked them about it when they come in and
That's a tough one.
it's on the schedule for what, 2 years from now.
I think where the city got caught up pretty bad is they deferred all that maintenance there in the early 2010s there and they intend to catching back up and now they got to that point and now with inflation and everything else, it just really has buried them.
Spend the money on parking lots.
Yeah.
Give them tax grants. Tax incentives.
Yep, I do. Thank you.
Have you gone by the Museum of Light? It's, yeah. The building is humongous.
Okay, yeah. I've been wondering all along how that's going to look, if it's just gonna really stand out or what it's gonna look like. I think
What's
it's gonna be the new Martin Light Museum.
Martin Light.
It's
Oh.
gonna be okay. It
I
really
hope
is.
so. It's just, it really needs a bigger space. It's a beautiful building, but it needs a bigger location.
But they've been moving that.
That's going
They've
pretty
been-
fast.
Say, haven't been there by a couple of weeks, go by, wow.
They have all the. Cheated, I guess it's Working on that building is a challenge too.
Really working on that building out by the core, that new group going out there where that church used to be, the Corps of Engineers
yeah, that
office.
thing's going-
That's really going.
Yeah.
Which church?
I forget where that Katie's Way, isn't it?
No. It's
The
one,
Free Evangelical.
They came in here because they had to get the,
Rezone.
stone turned.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that one,
I
okay.
get them to both of them confused, but it is 9:30. So, was Diane joining us this morning or?
Well, we let her know, and first she
Okay.
doesn't look like she's here with us.
Okay. Do we need to reschedule or how do we want to handle it? For whatever.
Do we want to give her a call and?
Probably couldn't make it
No.
there
I
anytime
couldn't make it
anyway.
here.
Since she wants to be scheduled, so she's here, or we can.
We can say a few words and you want to just present it to her. If she wants to come back, we can do it or however. Okay. Okay. Well, we got a lot going on out there at the farm, so.
Yeah.
So, I won't present it back to you necessarily or myself, but I think on these, I think what I was looking for is the actual years, so 14 years of service. is what I was looking at.
Yep.
No, I would probably say, it's very difficult to find people to serve in these roles and volunteer time and energy, and particularly on this particular board where it's once a month, sometimes even more, and it's an hour. And I know last year we had several meetings where it went way over those times. And it's a very important board to serve on because it really backs up both the things that you guys do with land development and planning and zoning, and then the decisions that we ultimately make. So we look very closely to the recommendations and stuff that are made by the individuals that serve on this board. So to be able to take on that duty and responsibility for 14 years is quite extraordinary and probably going to be hard to replace. And I know Diane did a very good job on that and several of the other boards that she served on throughout her time volunteering for Raleigh County. So we appreciate the time and the effort. And when she does receive this, whether it's in person or through other means, make sure she knows that the board is generally appreciative of all of it. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely let her know. And she's on our comprehensive plan committee, so we still have her at least, so.
For a
it's
while.
wonderful. For a while.
Okay,
And
good
then
job.
we'll get her on something else, but yeah, she's always been a valuable volunteer for the community.
Working very hard on trying to get the Zinedale Community Park and potential center and stuff in the works too. So there's a good project for the community and the region too. So, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, tell her how appreciative we are when she does receive that.
I definitely will.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Rich asked to be on the agenda to talk about some election related items this morning as well. So.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rich Barber, Raleigh County Clerk. First item I want to cover is the newly recognized political party in the state of Kansas. It is called the No Labels Kansas Party. Effective immediately, Kansans are allowed to register to vote as a member of the No Labels Kansas Party, change their party affiliation to No Labels Kansas, or to affiliate with No Labels Kansas. So just wanted to do a little public announcement for that. We will have a weekly conference call with Secretary of State's office, and they just let us know that information last Tuesday. So just wanted to get that word out there. Next, I wanted to cover some of the presidential preference primary deadlines coming up. Don't know if everyone knows, a lot of people I talk to aren't aware of it, but we are having a presidential preference primary, first one since 1992. This one is March 19th, 2024. The deadline, as I commonly tell you commissioners, is, people think elections are only on election day. We have to have federal service ballots out by February 3rd. That's 45 days prior to every election. We have to do that for every election. People think
Sweet.
you just work on election day, and nothing can be further from the truth. The registration books and the last day to request a mail ballot is February 20th. So there are several, those that keep up with election deadlines, there are several typical rules for elections that was thrown out the door with this one. It has its own deadlines, which are very significant for people to pay attention to. So registration books close February 20th. Last day to request a mail ballot is February 20th. Then we have to have the advance mail ballots mailed out by February 28th. And advance voting will then begin February 28th as well, in person. Advance voting closes March 18th at noon. It's always in the state of Kansas, the Monday before the election day at noon. Presidential preference primary, of course, polls will be open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. March 19th. And advance, there's another change. Advance mail ballots must be received by the close of polls at 7 p.m. on election day. Typically, it's a close of business on that Friday after the election day. So that's another significant change. And commissioners, for your information, the public, we will have the canvass of the election March 25th. Any questions, commissioners?
So with,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, with this particular election, how does that work when candidates that have already basically applied to be on the ballot then decide to suspend or drop off? Are they still on the ballot? Can you still vote for them? Do they?
The Secretary of State's office will give us an official list of candidates, so they're the ones that sort through all that. So they will.
I think they did on Friday or Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, they should be getting it. Things aren't always timely, but yeah, they will get us the official list, and of course, we go off of that.
I think I got an email on that over the weekend, Friday, something. There's 4 on the Republican side and 3 on the Democrat side.
Actually, that's right, correct. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Like I said, my career, I've been here a while. I've never done a presidential preference primary. First, last one was in 1992. So we'll see what turnout will be like. Of course, we'll be all the standard polling places that will be open. Advanced voting will be at the same location, second floor of the courthouse office building. Encourage people to go out to the Riley County website. We have a ton of information out there on our election website. We have the complete presidential preference primary calendar. Matter of fact, that's what I'm reading off of all of those dates. It's all out there published for the public to see. If not, give us a call, 785-537-6300. Any other questions?
Yeah, are there any of the no labels candidates? Are there any of those on the ballot?
Yeah, none. They just got officially
They just got
recognized on
recognized.
Tuesday.
Their candidates, the way that works, they have to get a certain percentage of the
Percentage of-
actual vote throughout the primary or the general election.
That I do not know.
It's either the primary or general. I think it's the primary election to get on the general ballot. And if they don't, then they
And they don't, they aren't on.
they aren't on the ballot and they're not recognized as a party the next time around.
So the first time in my career, we've had a newly recognized political
Yeah,
party.
that's kind of, yeah.
And so
It's 3%.
and they had the petition, it originally was thought that they weren't going to make it. And then, of course, went to court and how things get settled in court, and how they are recognized. Any other questions? Yeah, thank you, commissioners.
Did
you ever visit with Commissioner Ford?
Yeah. We did briefly.
We won't get to lunch sometime anyway. It's 11:30 to 12. We've got a presentation at 11:30. No way we can get over there and get parked.
David, to make it short. It'll take me a half hour to get my code in.
I know.
Or walk however far.
Oh, we got
I don't know about that.
We could have put him somewhere else. To Thursday or something. Oh, well, we got an hour for the next thing.
Of course, if it doesn't take that long, David has to if he's here. Yeah.
That might be a good idea, because that's rushing it. Particularly,
Oh, I agree.
you can't.
Matter of fact, I made a note for Cindy on intergovernmental days. Don't schedule anything at 11. That makes it too tight, especially going through this process.
Yeah.
It's gonna be all year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Already made a note.
I don't think ours is colored, so.
We didn't color it.
No, well, we didn't make that correction, but they've got enough
Oh,
color.
there.
There's the. What is that?
Okay. You filling in for chief today?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go right ahead then.
So we come to you with the recent resignation of our deputy chief of administration to request to fill his position. We've made sure the job description's up to date. It's already budgeted for this year and beyond. We've attached the job description as well. And the newest range, is that correct? I believe that we checked. Yeah, just made sure the job description was correct. And it is attached.
And there's no real changes to the job description. I mean, there were minor like verbiage. but-
Yeah, verbiage, I think we changed inventory. Because I'm dealing with all the inventory, but I think that's all we changed, just verbiage. So. Yep,
It's pretty much a start from scratch position we started.
yeah, it was, and we've worked with Elizabeth on all of these.
Yeah, basically,
ago,
yes.
so.
So. I'm sure pretty much stuff updated at this point in time.
Yep.
Okay,
And I will tell you the person.
Yeah, we-
It's a different position, so
Yeah.
both locally and across the state.
okay.
Well, I would make a motion to approve the posting and advertising for the Raleigh County Fire Department District 1 Deputy Chief of Administrative position.
A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the posting and advertising for Raleigh County Fire District, number 1 Deputy Chief of Administration position. All those in favor?
Aye.
All three sign, please. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
You.
Next, Commissioner, do you have Amanda Webb at 9:50?
That's why you're employee of the month.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
There's no harm. But if it's not registered, across the day of license, but-
Great. Okay. Doesn't mean it's gonna be a pot.
Oh, I thought you were really. We just went through. I think Mondays are good about it. We don't talk about it, but then it's all in the next week. That's how it's good.
Thought I got rid of all that stuff, but it's attacking me again today.
All this, all the various versions of this, just hang on forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing pretty well. And then this morning I woke up and just, yeah.
In a weird fall and early winter, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, it's so.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, that'll be great. Thank you. Sure. And is there anything else that you guys? Presumably.
I just thought it was great.
Yeah, well, you said that's.
Here you are.
Yeah, yeah, we're. Yeah, I got that. Yeah. No, it works. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Oh. Thank you. Oh, good to see you. I'm gonna do this. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I'm so. Yeah.
Yeah, he was one from.
With his girlfriend.
Sorry.
No, what is that? I should work. She's in lost crap. Lost here. And I've got some son.
Okay. They did a nice product.
She was much good.
No.
She's living on like grandparents. I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, it's something about
That,
that.
it was there since more, but she started saying when she lived.
Yeah.
But man, that's that interesting. So back here, I lived there for 40 years.
Beautiful.
Goodness sakes, yeah, well, at least the house is still standing. That's good.
Right. Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Webb, Planning Director.
I am here regarding Heat's environmental assessment, the RMP we issued several weeks back. We talked about the environmental assessment is required for USDA funding, so we're working through that process. If you recall, Mr. Fisher who did the environmental assessment for the city connection a couple years back, had submitted to us in a proposal of email, it was over $20,000, so that triggered our RFP process that we're going through now. So we received 4 proposals in response to the RFP, and all of those are in your packets. As per the county procurement code, department head and board of county commissioners comprise the selection committee, so congratulations. I also like Brian Foster, our engineer from BG Consultants, to be a part of that as well. So if you folks are okay with that, I'll send these to him today. So basically, we need to go through the submittals, and in the interest of time, I've created what I hope is a super simple scoring sheet for y'all to look through, for y'all to use for these the proposals. Most of them aren't too long. The one that seems a little bit longer, the majority of it is like the cost sheet. So most of that isn't really relevant to what we're doing here right now anyway. So basically, we have to go through and score them and select a minimum of 2 that we believe are the most qualified, and then basically we'll go on to interview those 2. That doesn't mean we only have to do 2, we have to select at least 2 to go further along the process with it. So again, in the interest of time, as y'all know, this project is just time specific. We have just a variety of programs to go through. So I'm hoping if it's possible for you folks to get the sheets done and to get back into the week, that would be excellent. Then I can work on. I know I see your face. I know, but let me know if you know what you feel might be realistic, if you need a little extra time. I completely understand. I know that's a lot to ask to do it within the next 4 days. I completely understand. So if we could just communicate about what timing might be a little bit better. Just so I really want to have, okay, we know we're going to have our section sheets done here, so I can make interviews like almost immediately, make calls to schedule interviews immediately, and just really keep things moving as quickly as possible. If you look at some of the proposals, it doesn't seem like the timeframe is really going to be that much of an issue, but the quicker we can get somebody under contract and going, the better for all involved. So definitely let's communicate on that, what timing would work better. Let's see. I'll make sure I cover all of that. Okay, so anything specific, I have a little bit more relating to Keats, anything specifically about the RFP?
I have no idea if you wanted to borrow. I mean, I tried reading, I know we had our proposal went out and the responses, I think we need to have a meeting with the engineer because I don't know what it is. When we had the construction one, I knew what those were. I could go through this one. And it looks like one of them, I didn't ever see a total price. They just listed all their hourly rates. They didn't have a price anywhere.
They did, yeah.
Oh, was there one? Oh, okay. I couldn't find it. All their files.
I don't know how to
much,
gauge any
yeah.
of it, and that's why I can't really come up with anything. I was inclined to say, let you and Brian adjust and figure that out, and if there's some legal
That's
things
right.
that need to be figured out, then that's fine, because I'm not.
Sure.
Give it a chance to review it. Maybe come in Thursday. I don't know how. If there's room Thursday,
Looks
come in
like
with
there
Brian.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about them because I tried looking through these and I'm lost.
Like a different language. Okay, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they're saying what they need to, but it's not anything I know.
Sure, no.
I'm glad that we have some. I'm glad that we had some interest in it for sure, but
It's definitely a sport, so.
yeah, I wasn't
Yeah,
getting along real well with that one
Yes,
either.
we have quite an
the
outlier.
range is
It's
so
amazing.
spread that, how do you determine if this one's got the right thing or this one's got too much?
Yeah, and that's definitely why I, of course, wanted Ryan at, the selection committee police, but yeah.
Yeah,
also
absolutely.
Get him,
Okay.
get some time.
Like I said, we got some time Thursday to go over it because I think we're lost.
It's.
I think together, yeah, we could probably figure that out.
Yeah, sit down and have a meeting with him to go over stuff would
Yeah.
be better.
Absolutely.
Because like I said, I tried going through it. And
I think I ended up more lost than I was.
Yeah, I was really lost, especially in that one with all the job costs and everything.
Yeah, as with most everything I got, and I'm still figuring out myself, but I got quite a crash course in NEPA and all that stuff here. Because I'm just working through this. So, yes, I will absolutely work with him to get some time on your agenda for Thursday and we'll have that discussion. So, absolutely. So thank you for asking about that.
Do you have any hard copies of this printed?
I can print them off for you.
And that would be good on Thursday
Yeah.
too, yeah, or
Ahead of time.
get them ahead of time and maybe get them to Cindy and have them drop them in our box.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was gonna print it. I'm going, how many pages?
yeah, that's quite a. Oh, you know,
And all the-
30, just that one is 33 pages.
And the majority of it is their copy.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe we don't need, but
yes.
I don't think we're gonna need all the cost sheets.
Okay, so I'll work to get that part done for you. And then just since we're talking about Keats and USDA and all of that, just wanted to give you a quick update about what we've learned over the last couple of weeks. And I'm waiting until now because I wanted to have everything confirmed with Austin so I could make sure I understood everything correctly so I could properly report it to all of you. So basically what we found out just recently was the national folks reviewed our application that was submitted by September 29th. We worked so hard to submit by September 29th, and then for to get it in before October 1st when the census numbers change, because we're concerned about having to redo the income survey and not keep out of eligibility and the timing and cost that would take. Unfortunately, since we didn't get our environmental done by the end of that year, the fiscal year, if you will, it's incomplete. So has already been considered incomplete. And that's just the way it is. That's fine. So the biggest thing I wanted to, that Austin and I went back and forth on, and he was confirming on his end, and I wanted to make sure to have that information before I chatted with you folks, is we do not need to redo the income survey. And that's good news, because again, that takes time, there's a cost, and we don't know if updated income surveys, the ones we're currently working off of are 2021. We know the population has changed out there a little bit, and it could be enough to bump us out of eligibility for grant funding or as much grant funding from USDA. So if we don't have to risk that, we'd rather not have to risk that essentially. So that's why we made that big push to get it in by the end of their fiscal year. But because we don't have to redo them, so that's good news. We do have to use updated Riley County numbers, of course, because their census numbers have changed. But Austin believes our project is still eligible in some fashion for grant, a percentage of grant. We won't know, we wouldn't have known anyway until the letter of conditions come out in May or June. So we're not gonna know what percentage that is, but he believes we still are eligible for some percentage of grant funding through USDA. Loans were never an issue, of course. We want to get as much grant funding as we can, because obviously they don't pay that grant. So we're still working through that, and he did, from what the national folks are telling him, highly recommend to still go along our schedule as we're doing with our environmental assessment and all of that stuff. So we're going to keep going, keep acting as if everything has got to be in by that date and finish it by then. So we're still picking up and work for that environmental assessment if you all have that done.
I just, if the census numbers change, I have a struggle that, how does that not change the income?
I don't disagree with your question mark.
Okay.
But that was something I wanted to be very clear with them. Okay, does that mean we do have to because I was under the impression we were gonna have to redo them, right?
That's what I
I
figured.
think that you would have to, but he was very specific.
That's not gonna be one where we get down to the end and they go, oh yeah, by the way, you are gonna have to do that.
Right, yeah, that would look right the current thing, so.
Maybe only if we ask them to explain it.
Well, I would rather us make sure about that now. Cause it would be at least better to do that now and to wait till the very end and then be stuck with it, you know?
I mean, I can
know.
ask him to verify again,
Okay.
just to make sure.
I don't know, I'm bothered by that.
And it's in writing.
Okay, that's good.
Writing?
Okay, that's good.
Learned a
Okay.
thing or two over there.
It's from the USDA, you have that in writing, or? it's
Yeah,
from-
Austin Masters is USDA.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's right, okay, then I will.
and he's never steered anything we've done wrong, but he's solid. I just struggle with that.
Yeah. It was surprising.
I'm sorry.
Because that was my main concern, that, when I got the original email that we're incomplete, like, oh goodness, that means we have to be doing our income surveys, because that's what we always understood, right? And why we were so gung ho about getting it in by the end of their fiscal year. And so my one response to him was, thanks for the information. Can you confirm, do we need to redo the income surveys? That was the only thing I put in that response email, and his response was, we do not need to.
Okay, good, I think that's
So do we
good
really want to ask again?
at this
I mean,
point.
I never came in for that again, that's perfectly fine with me, I don't have a concern asking again.
I mean, we can,
You know,
and I'm not saying this on great chance that it's gonna change.
so yeah, simple message, how do you do it?
The only thing we've done in the past, we've occasionally asked is keep those above him. Supervisor, but I also don't want to disrespect the fact he's making that call.
No, I just don't want to go through this process and then get to the end and then, oh yeah, by the way.
No, nobody did.
That's more damaging and detrimental at that point in time than having to do it now, if it need me to have to do it.
And then I maybe ask the question that way,
Yeah,
just because this is kind of a cursed project.
yes.
Don't use that, don't use that.
And you can say your board chair right now is very, very cynical about it.
Difficult, yeah,
No, I
difficult, not cursed.
Just 100% verifying, just making sure we all
Okay.
understand.
If this is, then you got another application
The state.
to another,
Water resource.
They can't-
water resource that then,
Yes,
That's separate.
so that is separate,
and then you'd have we won't hear anything for a while on that.
probably not till at least the end of Q1.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a little bit, but we have everything in for that, we have,
And they have their own numbers.
Yeah. So there was a technical assistance grant with that one, and also the water projects grant, not even construction.
And I'm assuming they have to put some kind of a budget towards that at some point in time, but so it definitely probably be towards the end of quarter one.
Yeah, and as you folks probably remember, this was like a brand new thing
Yeah.
that they, kind of scraped together because they were really trying to get it out quick.
Probably really need to work with Representative Titus on that because he's on the water committee. He's the one that directly impacts that. Yeah, board, he'll know.
So isn't Bloom too, Bloom's, I don't know,
I
something
don't know if
like
he's
that.
on there or not, but I-
Actually, so Representative Bloom, he's the one who attended some of the Keats, community meetings and at the leadership thing, we went to Topeka a couple weeks ago, and I was on, in his groups, I
Mhm.
specifically wanted to meet him.
Yeah.
So I was able to chat with him on Keats stuff, so, but I can definitely
Okay.
follow up with Titus, and then also Senator Moran's office has put in a call to USDA.
Good.
Championing our application with them, so,
Good.
so that will. So,
And I did reached out to the contact I have in the governor's office, part of the water board, and he said there's a lot of competition.
Oh,
You know,
cool.
but we were up there and they would keep us on the radar. So he said there are a lot of projects. We've got to fund more. We've got to get more money into these rural projects. I said, yeah, they're going to be all over the state. So.
something.
So hopefully so. We can push it.
Any other questions or things to follow up on? So I'll get some time on your Thursday agenda for, hopefully Brian will be available to come explain things to us all. So we can get that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next, commissioners, you have an executive session at 10:10.
And we're using the whole time for the executive session. Okay, yes. My fault, Shelley's best.
That's always my fault. I'll take it.
Shelley, you have second.
I talked to David. He's gonna be here early just in case.
Oh, it's, yeah, lunch actually starts at 11:30.
Yeah, that's a change they made in the last couple of years.
That was last year.
Yeah.
You said you hired
Yeah,
somebody.
we won't schedule anything after 11 anymore. It's too hard.
It seemed like everyone. It was. Oops.
Got a minute?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get out there and big, especially not in the city.
Right.
Yeah. But it was like, oh, Lord, really, nice. And there are people that you hire.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I can send you, so right now here in the family services, we wanted to work. Please, I did.
Oh, yeah.
So I can send you the information.
Okay, yeah.
He does those, but they're not only folks who are two that you have.
So I something like that. Should have attended a meeting, better like the chairman. Yeah, they got a separate, the city is, one of the units, but the city is one separate. The city would take it over once it's done. And it goes about, I mean, the city's property. They've got set up, and they got something set up. So I knew they should start training our funds that way, but they're trying to block. Yeah, stuff like that. They said, because we had, the city had, it's old. And they said about using the city. Sure, the fleet enough to. They said we couldn't use it. We might have just subdivision away from there. Which also we feel that's people. Really? Yeah, it's not really. That's been the city. You get the city. She's calling. That's. Not sending people. They had us do it. You had to have a certain percent of people. Certain. The ones in this part of town, they started in push in more than the ones in this part. You know. Yeah, we could, yeah, they're just.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, considering that, yeah, you know, I was running the people who are it's pretty good. I mean, right? People don't want to tell our information. So it was a little easier when we had this third party to do it, so it wasn't. Do you guys think it seems like it needs a yeah, and so I think I think
Sure.
absolutely. Maybe not be like putting in this, I like to see two out there. It's been it's nothing else to do that either. And you need to see it as wrong. So I see it's a lot of necessities because you're very many. So probably not fresh. So not playing the out. So it's not yeah. We know.
You're what? I'm sorry.
It's because you're full on blame commission board doesn't believe you.
It's the voice of experience with regard to that.
Yeah, from day one. Did it just drop on you? Yeah. Oh, really? Mine did the same thing. I came back in here.
Way down before.
Yep.
It turns out everyone's well. Just sit on it, just sit right.
We are at 10:10 now, so he's indicated he had now, so it's just the executive session.
And then we'll go to
10:30.
10:30. Okay. I move the county commission, including Sheriff Ford, Vice Sheriff Kinley, and Commissioner Foki, recess into executive session. Potential litigation for the purpose of consultation with Shelley Woodard, Deputy County Counselor, Attorney for the Commission, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, an exception to the Kansas Open Meeting Act. The open meeting to resume in the County Commissioner chambers at 10:30.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the Riley County Board of Commission recess into executive session on potential litigation. All those in favor?
Aye.
And cameras on that one.
You can come on in, Roger. You can come on in.
We need to make a motion.
Yeah, for waiting. I move the Board of County Commissioners go out of executive session.
I'll second that.
The second that the Board of County Commissioners come out of executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
And I move the record reflect action shall be taken consistent with the consensus reached in executive session.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the record reflect actions shall be consistent with the consensus reached in executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we will move on to 10:30 item, and that's discussion on a fence view application. I'll turn it over to you, Clancy.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a follow-up hearing to the fence view the board had a number of months ago. And for purposes of getting each party here today, half an hour to go ahead and make their proposal to you. Parties were not able to reach agreement since the fence view until some weeks ago. And that's when I scheduled this as a follow-up meeting to resolving this issue. Each party will have half an hour. They're not required to use half an hour. If they can, the half hour is up, there's a rebuttal time. This isn't a trial, this isn't a cross-examination, that kind of thing. Each party has freedom to go ahead and use their half hour as they wish. And then, and again, if they end early, if, for example, Mr. Nelson's going to go first, if he ends early, then we begin the half hour for Mr. Wood speak for his council. Well, vote. However, they want to use that time. And at the end of that half hour, we'll look at that. So with that, I would like the landowner, Mr. Oh, one other thing, as you're aware, there is a substitute aerial. It's been provided to Mr. I provided the plan. That actually does not change any of the dimensions or anything like that. It just has additional information making clear. The previous aerial did not include the assignments that Mr. Nelson's proposal indicates he would propose to assume. And so that's additional information, just to give you the facts underlying these issues.
Lauren, Richard. Thank you for taking time out here to have this hearing. To do with the fence viewing that you guys did last August, we did not come to terms. When we left that day, we had a term because we were going to do a 50-50 with getting a contractor and giving us a bid. Council said he dropped the ball. He did not do it. He did not accept the contractor that I had. We both used for fence building. Yes, but anyway, they would not accept him. And then when we got back together in late September, then they were willing to do the same contract. Well, then I visited with my contractor about it, and he didn't want to do it. He said, I need work for both of you. I don't want to be in the position. So he stayed out. So that's where we're at now. So that 50-50 is not going to work. The Rutten BNS company has sent a proposal how to do the fence. I can see that not going to work, so it's going to be under a 50-50 share. And they won't follow up on what we've had before. So I think it needs to be a sole responsibility that I'll take care of the east half of the pond where the water comes back, where the fence comes down off the dam and enters the water. They take care of the west half of the pond where it comes from the corner post into the water. And then on the back side of the dam, we're roughly 300 feet, 200 some feet. They'll take care of that little dry land stretch of fence there, and I will take care of the rest of the fence. I'll be all my responsibility for the rest of the fence. And it goes down, it'll go down through a draw and everything that I'll have to maintain. It's not all flat fencing up there. And that's always been my responsibility with previous landowners. Right, the crosshair, so I've always kept that fence up, kept the brush out of it, kept it clean. So that's why I was suggesting that I should have that side of the fence. Or as you know, their argument is it's too hard to maintain the pond water deal. It's no different than owning a vehicle or a house, you have maintenance, you have to do. It's no different than having a creek crossing that is in between a fence. When you have high rains, water takes it out, and you gotta go maintain, you gotta put it back in. So that's why it'd be easier for us to have sole responsibilities on for part of this, that way they can fix it the way they want it fixed, as long as it'll deter cattle, keep cattle in, and they can do it at any cost. I can do the same thing. I'm not looking forward to hiring a contractor to come in and put my section fence up, because it's an extra expense. I do this to make a living, any way I can save money, that's what I want to do. So if I can go in and do it myself, and I'll do a good job fencing it, that's the way it should be allowed for me to do that. Their recommendation is we get contractors in. We do a bid and then we're at a delay, you know, try to get a contractor there to do it. This fence needs to be put in probably by April 15th. I've already lost a season and a half of grazing because we can't get along on the terms of the fence. So I did get put cattle in there all last year. Had to take them out in July of 22 because they would not fix the fence that they said they would do. In conversation in the middle of the road one night, we had a conversation that they said they would take care of the west end of the fence, I would take care of the east end of the phone. And I have a witness, who heard the whole thing. He offered them up panels and offered them up equipment to go do it with, and they refused to do it. So that's the reason I'm saying this joint deal will not for this price. So it's been an issue, so. And I mean, my access to that west side is not possible. I mean, it's a swamp, it's mud, it's terrible to get around. That's where all the water comes down. Spawnville, we have a big range, that's where all the water comes from. And there's just no way I can get it under fixed. I can get to the east side through my pasture. And you gotta remember on the view where we cross spawn down there. I can get to that, I can repair that fence that are easy. They have a trail on their side that brings them down to their property and brings spawn. The previous owners kept the trail up pretty decent so they could get down there. I think the about the roads not found. That'd be their responsibility to clean it out so they can maintain the fence. But either side, it's about the same distance. It's going to be about the same cost to fix the fence on both sides of the pond. I just saw interested in hiring a contractor to do the pond. But I can do it myself and do a really good job. So, I mean, my intent is just push pipe into the ground and then hang panels on it. The fences that have been there for since the late 60s, early 70s. They have worked with a little maintenance. There hasn't been a big issue. I know they have an affidavit from Rod Simmer that says that my cattle were out. Well, I spoke with Rod the other day on the phone and he said, no, it was only one time that your cattle were out. I called him and he told me, I told him that it was his responsibility on that side of the fence that he come fix it. And that was the only issue we ever had. So that, you know, it's not a big deal, just needs maintained. And with the drought we've had the last 3 years, the pond level has really dropped and our fence is hard, especially on dry land. It was a great opportunity if we could have come to terms in August to put the fence in, because then we could have extended the fence out into the water a lot farther. So then when they had water fluctuation, the fence would still always be there. But since we didn't get that done in August, and I don't foresee us doing a joint deal, seeing them where down a lot. So I think you got a bid proposal, what I gave up there, on the aerial map, you can see that what I would be taking care of. One map there. And, coming from the star there, it's a 50-50 split of the pond is what's proposed, you know. But the fences only need to go out far enough to deter cattle. They don't need to go all the way across the pond, it'd be impossible. But water levels are low we got now, you're dying, if we decide to go this way, or you guys decide to go this way, I would jump on my fence right now and get it in before the water spring rain's coming. And get the fence up and get it close to me. Like I say, the biggest deal I have, like I say, they said, well, why don't you take the west side of the pond? I would do that if I could get to. I just cannot get to. I tried to get in there a couple of years ago and I buried my track loader and had to be winched out, and there's just not a good access from my side of the property. Like I said, rest of the fence, I'm assuming more fence, assuming, you can see there, I'm assuming quite a bit more footage fence. And I'm assuming half the volume. So, and I think that's more than a fair proposal. Do you guys have any questions for me? I really don't have any much more than that.
I was looking at this pond, the 192.67 feet on
Yeah.
the drive. Now, is that going to be panels in that whole area? Keep the cattle out, or just in, or where would you?
That's
put
what
them?
he's referring to, that's what they.
No, that won't be panels all the way out to.
It won't be.
That'd be the center part of the pond. Is
Okay.
what that is. And that's the water edge on both sides. There's a little bit of dry land fencing on the west side.
Yeah.
That's the reason that distance just a little bit longer. But it would go from that star far enough into the water. What I have now, I have panels going out to 6 feet deep. On that side.
That's what I see. The panels just have, I remember the font, but I assume the panels just go out far enough that the cattle can't.
Yeah, they can.
Can't get around.
When I repaired that fence back in 2022, when we had the agreement, I take care of that, take care of the other side. I went and put the panels out, and like I say, they're out 6 feet into the.
So they don't go all the way from point to point.
No, they do not.
Okay.
They do not. I don't know what the depth of the pond is right now. When it was built brand new, it was 32 feet deep.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it's still there in quite a bit over the years, but, because I built late '70s, late '60s, early '70s. But, there really had never been a problem with the fence field until we hit the one point where the water level dropped so low that they can walk around the fence. And like I say, right now is an opportunity time to put the panels farther out, because you got more dry land to do. And that way, when we get our spring rains, the panels will go underwater, but the cattle still will. It's not an issue there. But yeah, that just figuring the midway of the pond. That if for some reason the pond would get lower and lower and lower, I would extend my panels out to that midway point. And they would extend their fence to that midway point. To the point where it would curb cattle.
Is that written in your proposal? You would do that?
I don't know if I wrote that in there like that. I know it was mentioned that we were both responsible for half the pond. So I guess I should have probably not assumed that that's what, but yeah, it'd be standing on out on both sides.
If the water level drops.
If the water level dropped very low.
I believe it is in that area.
I can't believe that's.
Yes, okay.
We'll look that all the way if we're not. I know I talked about doing half of the pond. East half fence pond sign. Yeah, and with the proposal that, GNS sent me on the sheriff band and the maintenance on the bands. The issue I have with that is, they want to get a contractor in, which is fine. I don't want to spend money on that. But if there is disrepair on the fence that needs to be repaired, I gotta notify them, they have to notify them. You have to get a third party and see what where they gotta go to see what the cost is gonna be to do the fence. And then get the fence repaired. Well, there could be a time frame there that it take 2 to 3 weeks to do that. I got cattle, but I can't move the cattle out there for that time. I would be out there grazing for that time. And that's the reason, that's the reason I have the, I sure is put cattle in and make a living with myself. I'm not, you know, and this. This is about, like I said. About the easiest fix that I can come up with. I don't know any other possibilities that would work. Because I know we're not gonna get along. You know, we've tried it for 2 years and it hasn't, so pretty sure it's not one. Can't come to terms. We thought we could, but that didn't happen. So, do you have any more questions? Don't have any more questions for me, I think.
Catherine, I will point out in response to your question, to Mr. Russell was trying to find it, it's next to last paragraph, page 2.
It must extend into the font, extend in the font sufficiently that turns the style back.
They talked about both parties. That's what it's.
There it is. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, there it is.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. I want to start out with by handing out a couple documents real quick. I think just are helpful for understanding kind of the question. Sure.
Yes, for.
You state his name. Oh, yeah, no problem. Have as many as you want. Sure. Yeah.
Sir, could we have you state your name?
State.
Oh, yeah, apologies. It's Clint Spiller. I'm an attorney from Salina. I represent BS Land LLC here with me is Shane Roten. He's from Alaska. He's one of the owners of BS Land LLC. He flew down specifically for this.
The ER or AR?
My name's Clint Spiller, like with ER at the end.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. I believe it's 301 and just.
I don't know. You scroll on me.
So.
Just looking at it, just scroll past what I was looking at.
This thing. Here it is. That'll be perfect. All right.
We got something past.
I don't think it was, we're not gonna see. I don't think it'll be abiding a 30-minute deadline on this one, so.
I didn't really think either trying.
Okay, that's the affidavit.
They seem.
Okay, perfect. And I've got the original, the affidavit with me here, if anyone wants to see that. But-
Sure, you bet.
So I think I've met nearly everyone here because of the fence viewing it, I believe, except for maybe, I can't remember, I think maybe one of them was not here.
Yeah.
I was not here.
Clerk was not.
Rich was not there, but everybody else was. It was quite an adventure. I remember walking around with Catherine behind her, making sure the trees didn't hit her face as we're going through there. It's an area that's kind of difficult to reach, I think, for all parties involved. I had to trek in from a ways myself just to get to that point from before, because Mr. Nelson said I didn't go on his property to reach the viewing area. But it's a difficult area to reach for all parties. It's a very difficult fence to maintain for all parties. And that's the reason why we're here today. The west side of the fence, and this particular partition fence, is an area that's geographically challenging. It's probably the mildest way of describing it. There's a pond that is crossing the boundary line that makes it difficult for fencing on both sides of the pond. It has a dam on the east side, which the boundary, the property kind of quickly drops in elevation from that point. And on the west side of the pond, it's a muddy mess that constantly changes depending on the time of the year and the rising and dropping of the water levels. As a result of this, it makes it very difficult to maintain the fencing in that area because of the water conditions in particular on the west side of that pond. This has been an issue for a long time now. I believe Rodney Semmer owned that property for years and years and years prior to BS Land owning this property, and he had a very similar problem. In fact, he had such a similar troubles with this in dealing with Roger on this particular part that he was actually willing to sign an affidavit, basically attesting to this, basically talking about how difficult it was. He said at times they couldn't even reach this except without boat. They'd actually use a boat to get to the area to be able to fix the fence. And because of the water levels, I think his wife at one point had gone out of the boat and got stuck in the pond because she couldn't get out. He had plunged her into the muddy conditions. And because of these muddy conditions, it makes it very difficult for T-posts, steel posts, whatever you insert in there to remain fixed in the ground and vertical. Because of this, it makes it extremely difficult to maintain fencing in that area. In fact, the cattle can push into it and it pushes it over fairly easily because of muddy conditions. You almost need to have a contractor that comes out there and puts in a more permanent fixture, whether that be concrete or what it be. But it's a pretty expensive proposition for anyone involved. Shane's been an owner of this property for how many years would you say it was? 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years now. And I think on average, I was asking him about how often they have to go out there to maintain this fence line. And I think they were out there on average about 3 times per year trying to fix it. And it was never. Every single time they went out there, the cattle would find a way through. They pushed the posts over. In fact, when we were out there, I mean, people had been out there to fix it. I think earlier in the year, and you could see that the fence line was in horrible condition. It's very difficult to maintain that fence line because of the conditions. And Rodney had a very similar problem, which is the reason why I want to reach out to him to see what his experience with it, see if it wasn't just Shane and Brian that were having that problem, if it was anybody else. And the previous landowner, who's actually a close friend of Mr. Nelson, actually said he had a similar problem and he was willing to sign an affidavit to that degree. Kansas law is very, very clear on this issue. What we're dealing with is partition fences, which is governed by 29301 as far as the maintenance rules. And it's clear the owners of adjoining land shall keep up and maintain and good repair all partition fences between them in equal shares. So long as both parties continue to occupy or improve such land unless otherwise agreed. Equal shares is key. It's actually discussed. This professor at Washburn, his name's Roger McEwen. He actually teaches K-State extension agents how fence laws work. He's kind of considered the foremost expert on Kansas fence law, which is the reason why I wanted to print off what the article he wrote for Water and Agricultural Law and Tax Report. He actually discusses this on page 2 of that, where he specifically discusses how this works in practice. And it's under the partition fences, building and maintenance issues on page 2 of that article. And it says, in general, owners of adjoining lands are required to build and maintain in good repair all partition fences in equal shares unless the parties otherwise agree. And then after the note, it says, in practice, however, many adjoining landowners adopt the right hand or left hand rule. They face each other at the midpoint of their fence and agree to build in or maintain a portion of the fence, either their respective right or left. And I will say this is kind of a common experience you go around. People kind of think that's the actual law, but it's not. Because he actually goes on to say, but in Kansas, the law states that building and maintaining is to be in equal shares rather than halves. It's not the right hand left hand. There is no right hand left hand rule in the Kansas law. If you look at Kansas case law statute, there's nothing that discusses this. It's just kind of a common practice that people use. And one of the reasons why that's not the case is because you can run into situations where the right hand side is very difficult to maintain and the left hand side is very easy to maintain. Or, vice versa. Maybe the left-hand side is very difficult to maintain. The right-hand side is very difficult to maintain. And so you can't split up the fence maintenance purely based on the halfway point because of that. This is a perfect example of that. It might be one of the most extreme examples that you'll see in Kansas, where you have one side that's extremely difficult to maintain and then one side that's extremely easy to maintain. If it was up to us, if we got everything we wanted, we'd ask for exactly what Roger's asking for. We want exactly the areas he's wanting to maintain, because it's the least expensive and least time intensive from manpower perspective to actually do. We would love to maintain the east half of that fence. We love to maintain it from like all the areas that he's describing. It's basically the perfect areas to be maintaining because it's the easiest areas to maintain. The part where it's right next to the pond is very steep because it's right at the dam. So it's very difficult for cattle to get through that spot. And then he immediately stops wanting to maintain that area once it gets to be difficult again, once you're on the other side of the dam where you have trees and the downhill slope. And then he wants to continue maintaining it again once it gets flatter and it's easier to maintain and there's actual clearing out farther east. In an ideal world, we would ask for that. But I don't want to ask for that because I don't think it's fair. He's willing to ask for that, but I'm not willing to ask for that because I don't think that what he's asking for follows the law. I wouldn't want to ask for that because I don't think it aligns with KSA 29301. What I want to ask for is a result that's actually abides by 29301. And because of this particular boundary, there's no way to split the fence obligations where it's actually equal. Because somebody's going to have to do that hard part. Somebody's going to have to do the hard part. It's either going to be us or Roger. And there's no real way to split that up, which is the reason why I originally proposed, hey, why don't we just both sides agree? You know, everybody split the cost. We have somebody go in there, put in a new fence. We split the cost 50-50. Everyone be equally responsible for the fence. We'll pay half, you pay half. Everyone goes their separate ways and it's a good result. And I think that is the only way that you can do this where it's actually fair to both sides. We were willing to do that. Roger was willing to do that. Roger changed his mind. He no longer wants to do that. He claimed that we didn't want to use Richmond's contractor. We actually had agreed, hey, if you agree to this agreement we prepared, we'll use your contractor. And at that point, he said, no, I don't want to do this deal. I want to go to the county commission and already the right hand, left hand rule. And I understand from his perspective why he'd want to do that because no one wants to maintain the west part of that fence. It's nearly impossible to maintain. It's going to make it right so that you can actually keep the fence posts in to the point where they won't move. It'll be extremely expensive. It'll cost one side a lot of money to put that up, and if you don't, it'll be out there 10 times per year trying to keep the fence posts up so that they don't move from the weight of the cows pushing into muddy soil. Because all it takes is a little bit of pushing in that muddy conditions for the fence to go over. Ideally, if we get what we want, we'd ask for exactly what we're not asking. I don't work in ag, so I don't have a lot of experience. I drive some T-posts on my property, but I don't deal with a lot of it as much as Shane and Roger do. So I'd like to hand it over to Shane to talk about kind of his experiences with this area and the limited time he's owned it and how difficult it has been to maintain. How would you describe maintaining that fence?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak to you guys today. I flew down from Alaska just to share my perspective that I don't think that any legal counsel can give. And just stand in front of you guys and say, you know, what we have been willing to do. Some of the solutions we came up with have been denied by Mr. Nelson. One of the things that we have to consider as BS land is where we live. And one partner lives in Arizona and one of us lives in Alaska. And so we have to look towards long-term solutions. Because going back to what Mr. Nelson stated that, you know, if we do a cost share split of this fence and there's an issue that it would require that a contractor comes out and then keep at least 3 weeks of grazing and this land is for grazing. Well, owning several farms in other states and cattle ranches in other states and self-performing some of the work, he would be 100% right if Brian Roden and Shane Roden were not agreeable and equitable as neighbors. But that's simply not the case. It would be more challenging to fly from Alaska. It would be more challenging because either way, when I live in Alaska and Brian lives in Arizona, we cannot fly here at the drop of a hat every 3 weeks when Mr. Nelson's cows get out and cause crop damage to our tenants, our producers, crops. And so what's going to happen first? Are we going to be able to fly down and self-perform that work? Or Is it more equitable to have a share split and have Mr. Nelson perform that work? I never, ever, ever have told Mr. Nelson that we would not agree to cost sharing and do our due diligence as neighbors in Kansas. We have neighbors that are prominent landowners all over the place, owning 5,000 acres in Riley County. I have a lot of neighbors. I've never had this issue. The reason I don't have this issue is because most people accept, hey, he's willing to pay 50% of the cost of this fence, and he doesn't have any reason to do that other than to abide by Kansas law and be neighborly. And so, in my opinion, on the west side of the fence, we've had problems going back to what Clint first mentioned. I had that fence repaired 3 times. And it is true, when the water's low, you can repair it different than when the water's high. We can't control when it rains or doesn't rain. When the drought comes and the barbed wire's been rusted away because it's been underwater, whether it's a panel there with held up by wire, Mr. Nelson's cows want to get out. They want to get to that sweet corn. They want to get that crop and eat it. Okay. And so they will push that fence. They will find a way to get out. When the water's high, all is fine and dandy. But being a non-resident, it is very challenging to have fencing solutions for the right-hand, left-hand rule. And so because of that, we proposed solutions that include cost sharing. Even when we don't have a lot at stake, we are willing to share 50% of the cost in maintenance of that fence, of that partition fence, so that Mr. Nelson can run his operation unimpeded and continue on with life. We propose things like, if you look at this map, we said, let's abandon this western portion right here. BS Land will pay a 50% share of going along this grass right here, where you're not going to lose any grazable grass, and we can have a long-term solution for you. We will contribute 50% of that fence. He said, no, it doesn't matter what we propose. Mr. Nelson says no, except in the case that he has proposed here, which has many flaws in it. The biggest flaw is that wind cattle, it is not if, it is when, going back to the Simmers, they couldn't find a reasonable solution. Mrs. Simmer went out there in a boat and was up to her hips in mud and literally got stuck. That's not a long-term solution. It's pointless to go through this process to have outcomes that don't provide long-term solutions when both parties agree that long-term solutions are the best. It's not long-term right there. The only way to get that long-term is hopefully have a private contractor go in there that can weld and make very radical fence changes that I can't perform myself. And in the process of doing that, that could cost $3,000, could cost $8,000 for that little section right there for a permanent solution. But even at that, we are willing to pay for 50% of that. If Mr. Nelson is willing to pay for 50% of that. It is not fair in this situation to say, hey, I'll take so many feet of fence going across bare grass, and I'll maintain that and have that be equitable in the outcome, because the cost of that western border or a long-term permanent solution is far exceeds the remaining eastern portion of that fence. So I'm not quite sure where Mr. Nelson says that we can't get along. In Arizona at our cattle ranch, if our neighbor, or in Alaska at our farm, if our neighbor says, hey, we'll pay 50% of this, then I'm willing to do that. If someone else is willing to do it, why can't I be willing to do it? In the instance of this western border, he doesn't want to do it. Why? Because it's difficult. Why don't we want to do it? Because it's not a long-term solution. We are not here to maintain and to provide constant maintenance every time the pond comes down 3 feet or water fluctuates, it's silted in now, it doesn't have a hard bottom. It's silted in, you can't, it's not like the eastern bank. The eastern bank, you can drive boats in, you can have a lot more success running a fence into water. The western side is flat and gradual and slow, and there's several feet of silt. There is no way to get a long-term solution and not even through this due process that is fair monetarily or fair in maintenance. And all I'm asking for, I'm not here to say the standard argument for a non-resident landowner in Kansas is, hey, I don't have cattle there. I'm not going to maintain that partition fence. Well, Kansas law doesn't accommodate that. We are not saying that at all. We are saying we are non-residents. We don't live here, and we need a long-term solution that works. And we are willing to share monetarily in that solution, which as a resident, such as Mr. Nelson operator, would be the best case scenario, in my opinion, is to have a neighbor that would say, hey, I'll pay for 50% of that if you're willing to do that. And if you don't want to do it, if you want to hire a contractor to do it, we'll pay for 50% of that too. That's what I just did here earlier this fall with another near landowner who created a new partition fence. And he came to me and he said, you know, for the right-hand rule, your north, in this case, it's a north-south fence. You would be responsible for the north boundary of that fence. There is no fence there right now. How about we just split it 50-50? Because my side's coming up through a beautiful flat top grass pasture. Your side's dropping down through Sweet Creek in several different places. Why don't we split it 50-50? I said, let's do that. And so I'm not understanding why Mr. Nelson doesn't accept what we're willing to do, which is give an equal share of whatever he would be willing to do. And if he wants to self-perform something, if he needs to go around and have access, what he said is not true. We would let him come on our land to access that western side of the fence so he could maintain it just as easy as we could. So if we're willing to give him that access to maintain that western portion of the fence, we don't understand why he wouldn't accept an offer from us to be neighborly and say, hey, it's fair, it's equitable, 50-50, let's do it. I can keep my cattle in, I can pay the same amount you guys are paying. Let's make this work. It is very apparent why he does not want to have a cost share split. He wants to apply a right-hand rule, which is not Kansas law. And that is because one provides a long-term solution for a low monetary cost, and the other one provides a very challenging long-term solution with a very high cost. So there are multiple solutions here. Cost share seems the easiest. It would cause Mr. Nelson to think about, hey, do we put a fence on that western side of the pond? Or should we look at should we look at other things like going across the eastern boundary right here to where none of his grass is impacted? A fence that would literally be almost maintenance free. And create a water gap for his cattle to drink in the event that his pond, which is center pasture, doesn't work for him. I mean, that's what I would do. I'm here for long-term solutions. It wastes no time. But that's my proposal.
I just want to end with one thing real quick. I think in the packet, it mentions that you guys cannot force the agreement that we prepared. You'll see I drafted an agreement for basically the cost sharing kind of approach for the parties, of basically how we deal with this. Basically, both sides would agree, and basically have a contractor come out there and build the fence, and then both sides would be responsible for splitting half of them. I understand Mr. Nelson no longer wants to do that, And it was stated that you guys can't make us agree. That's true, you can't make us agree. However, you can have the same end result through a ruling here. You could make a determination here where both sides are responsible for the cost of the fence. And if you wanted to, you could assign areas where each side is responsible for making sure that it's maintained, but still maintain the cost sharing approach. And that's, to me, that's the best result. It's the most fair result that follows 29.301. You can say, if you wanted to, you could follow this chart and just say, everyone's equally responsible for the cost of the entire partition fence. However, with that being said, DS Land might be responsible for maintaining this area. Mr. Nelson might be responsible for maintaining this small couple feet area, and then we'd be responsible for this area, then he'd be responsible for this area. However, once it's been maintained, the cost would then be assigned to each side 50-50. To me, that would be a fair result. It alleviates his concern as far as access, and it ends up with the result, I think, of what follows the statutes. That's a way that you could do this to a point where you can't make us agree as to it, but you can force a solution that is the same result of what the agreement was, which is each side's responsible for 1/2 the cost. And if Mr. Nelson doesn't want to be the one that goes out there and maintains this area, we could hire a contractor to maintain this area and then just send Mr. Nelson a bill for his half. And then with your guys' determination as to this, if one side has not paid their half, the other side can then use this fencing judgment and then court to seek reimbursement from the other side. That's typically how these things end up going as far as these rulings anyway. But I think that, to me, that's the most fair way to handle this. It's the easiest way of handling this, and it reaches the result that I think it follows the law the most. Because the way that Mr. Nelson's proposing, I do not think it follows equal shares. Because if we'll take Mr. Nelson's assignment every day, all day, Sunday. We'll do it anytime you want. We'll take that every single time. We'd love to have Mr. Nelson's area that he proposes. And the reason why is because it's easy, it's cheap. We love it, but we don't look at, we're not asking for that because we don't think it's fair. We just think we're asking for a fair result. Does my proposal make sense from what I'm suggesting as far as the cost sharing?
Well, I do have a question. Mr. Roten's talked about long-term solutions and have you not presented any other maps besides the one we got from Mr. Nelson? Do you have alternative solutions?
I don't think there's a way to define the property line in a way that's.
You can't, so.
Well, you were saying, Mr.
I know.
Roten, that you could run the fence,
You
outside.
could, but I can't force a decision on Mr. Nelson's. Then it becomes a non-partition fence.
Yeah,
So I can't.
Okay, yeah, he was talking about coming and not even.
Yeah, if
having
you
the
look at
time.
this with what I proposed, but I don't think that I can legally force Mr. Nelson to put a fence on his property. Because at that point, it becomes a non-partition fence.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. That's something that you guys could order if you wanted to.
But that's something to show good faith to this commission here today that we have proposed. Can two property owners agree to that legally? Absolutely. Can I force an adjacent landowner to do that, even if it makes sense to me? No, I cannot do that. So working within the laws and working within what we can actually propose, the cost share approach is more appropriate. If it wasn't for this pond and you were building this fence, I don't really care. There's pretty much not a place in the Flint Hills where I can't take a bulldozer, clear the land, and put a fence up. And at that point, you have a great right-hand, left-hand rule that you can apply and agree on as landowners. And because you're starting with something that's fair and balanced. But at this point, we're not starting with fair and balanced. We're starting with a silted in mess on the west side and a grassy slope on Mr. Nelson's side. And the only long-term thing that I can offer is money. Is to put my money where my mouth is with our neighbor and say, if the solutions that you provide If you're willing to do them monetarily, so are we. And I mean that sincerely. Why can't you be willing to do what we're willing to do? And why shouldn't we be willing to do what you're willing to do? And so he does not want that west side for one reason and one reason only. It's difficult. It's difficult. And so if we come up with a solution that was, hey, what Mr. Nelson's proposal is not going to work, then the only other two solutions are to either cost share or to construct a new fence on his property, which I did offer to him, that BS Land would pay for in share. And it makes sense because it's on a beautiful grassy slope. And we even offered to pay for the maintenance of that fence, even though it was on his property. He didn't want that. He just wants to apply the right-hand, left-hand rule, which isn't law, and have us maintain that western portion. And it's just challenging. It's not long-term. There's nothing we can do that's long-term that would fall within the realm of standard fence maintenance, like 5-strand barbed wire fence. That's going to rust out. Putting panels up, as he proposed, someone offered. Panels aren't going to work. You're still going to have to wire them on. It's going to take a welded, piped, very firm fence. And it's going to cost a significant amount of money to do it, which we are okay with, because it's a long-term solution.
I'd ask you to stop there. Commissioners, at this point, that ends the time that was assigned for this item. You can, at this point, make one of the motions that are offered there. You can also, as the car itself indicates, you can also either table the matter or indicate that you're going to decide in a future meeting after you have a chance to think over what was presented. That's up to you. No one can make you do any of those choices. Your decision is the governing body and is the fence viewers. Not lobbying for anything particular there. You can choose what you wish to do.
You ask questions. Mr. Nelson, this term, it's something they brought up, that makes me ask.
Well, yeah, you had some additional time assigned that if you wanted to do that, I know you've got another item that you want to come up with, that's all I'm reminding you, but you can ask questions. So either part.
But my question, he just talked about putting, a fence around this way up there to, does that block too much? I mean, how does that work for you or not? Or what?
Well, what he wanted to do, he put the fence over on my property.
Could you step up to the podium and answer that so people are watching?
Going through on my property, we're going to go to a silted flooded area fence, and we're gonna have to maintain it every time we have a big rain. So it's not working there, and then he's giving us a water gap to go down, which is going to be 2 panels going into the water, fence going into the water again, which we're still doing the same issue. And yes, I refused that, but I also offered him back to put the fence on his side, which he says he does not need water for livestock. And then we go from that corner, come back around and on pond dam. And he refused that, like, said he wouldn't let my cattle get anywhere near the property. So that is a dry way of fencing to do that. Because there is no water comes down anywhere. You're getting away from the silt. You can follow that line around there above the water level of the highest point of the pond and bring it across the pond dam and tie it into the fence system because it's already there.
And that's why if you put where he was talking about, then you're limited to cattle's access to the pond.
Cattle access, and we're gonna deal with the.
But you're still, like saying, unless you go way back up there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we walked through there, it's.
Yeah, we had to go way back up. You can never hold the fence and that's still in there.
Yeah.
Unless you excavated it completely out of there, which would be tremendous cost. So, I mean, that, if you want to do a dry land fence around on his property, would be the long-term solution. And then we never have to deal with the pond again. That issue would be out of the way. And he would not lose if he does not graze, and he said he didn't, he already told me he don't need the water. So we would be fencing that off and keeping the cattle or anything comes down to that.
I think that's responsive unless there's questions.
No. Thank you. Your thoughts on that?
Going back to this point about crossing that water gap and a silty mess. Silt doesn't maintain itself in a creek, it maintains itself in a catch pit in a pond. That's where silt ends up, not a creek. However, going back to the pond, putting it on dry ground. That pond is largely recreational. I told that to Roger for us, because we currently don't have livestock, we have crops over there. So therefore, we would not want cattle on all over on the dam, on the northern boundary of it, where we like to fish and recreate. We don't want cattle stomping around the pond and lowering the appeal value of that site. So with that, one other solution would be to just remove the pond dam completely and just have a creek going through there. We're okay with that too. We would cut that pond but I don't think that anybody wants that. But we would be willing to do that as well and just run the fence right across that northern boundary so that we're not dealing with the silty muddy pond. We could maintain that fence much easier with a little dozer work for a long-term solution. But we did say that we would not put his fence on our property for his cattle for that reason. However, there is water in the center of his pasture. There's another pond. And in addition, that eastern border of the eastern fence in that pond, if Roger wants, we'll take care of the east side of the pond and not the west side. Because the east side is much easier, it's a steeper slope, it's rockier, has a much better base than that west side. And you could easily put a water gap right there for cattle to drink in the event that the other pond went dry. Where the cattle can also drink. But again, I can't force Mr. Nelson to put a fence on his property. I can only propose what we're willing to do to rectify the situation. He can't force us to put a fence on our property. But if we have a cost share split, there are many contractors, and one thing I didn't get out before is Kyle Blackwood was the person that he had that we agree with. I'm sure a fencing contractor for the right amount of money could get a very long-term solution on that western portion. And we would be willing to pay for 50% of that, as I think Mr. Nelson should be willing to do anything that we're willing to do.
I think that's responsive. And again, you need time to make a motion. You've got another item you've indicated you want to put on.
I'm gonna be honest on the other motion, the other item, we're gonna have to have you reschedule, David. We're just not gonna have time to get to our afternoon luncheon if we don't.
So board members, it's your pleasure. You can decide how you want to handle this. Issue a decision today, issue a decision at a future meeting, the parties would be advised. Whatever you want to do. And advise them when that decision.
If this fence is put up as proposed by Mr. Nelson, how is that going to affect the long-term, like another property owner that would, for either one of you, is that along your property lines, or is it?
Yes.
I can answer that. That's really a legal question. And really what would happen is if any decision you make as a fence viewer, as the parties know, that is a permanent
It
decision.
runs with the property.
It does. It is not a temporary, it does not follow ownership in terms of goes with the party who sells it. That's why one of the reasons partition fence controversies are pretty passionately maintained. Is because it is a permanent decision about whatever it is you're deciding regarding maintenance cost sharing. It isn't going to change for the change of ownership. I will say too, this fence, like all partition fences, doesn't exactly follow the property line. There's a little bit of a bend in it at one point near the pond. That's near in the pond. Some small amount, but you're rarely going to find one that is right exactly along the property line if it's parcels of any size and terrain difficulties and such. And that hasn't really been the issue. The issue's been the pond and responsibility for that.
Well, everything on there.
You also can't order that.
Yeah.
And that's why this process exists. The parties cannot integrate. Doesn't disparage either party. Just means that somebody's got to decide it. Congratulations, they gave it to county commission.
That goes back to the 1800s and
Well, it is.
my great uncle was involved in that.
Just, I guess, my thought, I understand that Mr. Roden sharing 50%. Saying his point of view, but I understand Mr. Nelson saying most of that, he didn't want to share 50 because he'd rather do it himself. You know, and I get that. But that's not a 50% share, man. And that's why maybe it needs to be divided up.
You could send us the bill.
Yeah.
So.
You need,
I would prefer that.
You need to wait until you're recognized by the chair.
if you're gonna speak, please come up to the podium, please.
Again, if you start doing this, we're gonna end up going back and
Yes.
forth.
Yeah.
More than already has been.
I don't think we're asking a question at this particular point in time, so just hold up. It seems like to me at this particular point in time, we really don't have a decision to be made, so we probably ought to table it, and take some time to think about it. We've got a lot of information here to digest, so that's just my thought for the moment. This gives us an opportunity to ask our legal counsel to follow up on questions and whatever is necessary for Kansas statute or for what we've heard this morning. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I've got a lot started on here.
I didn't exactly get the second part of that until yesterday, and it takes a little bit of time to really digest that and figure out what it all comes to, on what's fair given the dynamics.
Yeah, I would be comfortable on tabling. We'll get our questions answered and can discuss it further.
The only question I have with that is there a certain timetable that we need to operate from with that?
Unfortunately for the parties, no, there is not. But I would think.
I don't want to string it along.
I don't want to
Yeah.
another week or something.
Well, whatever.
It's like you said, now's the time to get something done.
Whatever is a reasonable period of time, I would just suggest that you indicate that's what it's being tabled to, for that, next week, 10 days, whatever you think you need in order to digest what the parties have presented to them.
I'd like to see us have something, some advisement, some opinion made by, on February 1st at least.
You're talking about signature, basically presentation, signature of a fence view order, because that's what it would be. That's what the decision would be.
But we want to have a discussion before that.
Sure.
Yeah, there's nothing that prevents you from doing.
Yeah, so we have. First is
It's a Thursday.
on Thursday, so if we have a discussion the Monday before on the 29th,
You don't need to set that.
we don't need to set that.
No. You've got the information. Now, it's a matter of coming up with some kind of resolution.
So I'm saying, have a further discussion on the 20.
Depending on how you want to structure that, you don't need to. I'm talking about when you have a decision that you're ready to make, that's when we would notify the parties, this is when the board's gonna announce its decision. So there won't be any mystery about when that's gonna be done, it'll be done publicly because you'll be signing an order.
Do we need to discuss it? Three of us in the executive session before the.
No,
election?
You can't do an executive
It has to be
session.
public.
I
Okay.
don't think so.
But this gives that opportunity between now and said time to be able to digest all the information.
Look at all the-
Received and make said decision, or at least, I guess, 2 or 3, correct? Or does it-
Yeah, it does not have to be a super majority. Just the usual, 2 out of 3.
So if you table, we need to table to a certain day, is that what you're
Normally,
saying?
that's what you could do. That's the usual process. So the county clerk is going to say this is going to be on the agenda.
So that last day of the month, February 1st, you're talking about the Thursday?
It'd be Thursday, that's approximately 10 days.
Well, I guess I'll move we table this till February 1st. February 1st, the
We have an idea that that's going to be when the decision's going to be announced.
decision we made there.
Yeah, I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to table this morning's fence viewing discussion till February 1st, where a final decision shall be made. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, aye.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks for the part. I'm sorry.
Well, that's what we need for a council.
That's what I said, yeah.
Okay. What do you call it?
That's why I said it's going to be public.
Okay,
So it'll be Ustream also. I'm not suggesting that's the way you want to do it. You certainly entitled to be.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that'd be helpful to answer questions or be better for me to.
If I hear that they do have questions, I should.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ismail.
And I am gonna have David reschedule his time to,
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we're gonna have enough time to get into the intergovernmental as it is already, so.
And Sue's got an email that changed.
Yes.
They changed it to what?
They changed the code.
All right, yeah.
You gotta be
kidding
No, they changed it again.
Oh, I'm just gonna pay for it.
Except you can't, they don't have a gate, you have to go
You have
set
to
up on
do a
their,
pay that. I didn't
set
know
up on
that.
their application.
So I'm just gonna go park, and then ticket me and I'll send Grant the ticket.
That's what they said they're gonna do. They'll just pay for the ticket. So-
Yep.
Oh,
So
really?
just go park and we'll submit the tickets.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. So we can get out of the parking lot.
That's what I'm wondering.
No, that's the one flaw in your perfect plan.
There's no gate anymore.
There's no gate that permanent.
Only.
Okay, who's got the pickup here?
Line up behind Rich.
Got it too. I don't know that, I don't even know that there's gonna be parking there.
I don't know, it's gonna be part of
Yeah.
stalls available, anyway, for this many people, there's rarely parking available. Except in the evenings when the students are gone.
Wow.
Motion to adjourn, Commissioners?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the, whatever day this is. January 22nd meeting of the Riley County Commission.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the January 22nd meeting of the Riley County Commission. All those in favor?